Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday. I'm Charlie City.
Thank you for joining us, Charlie. Thank you for joining us, everyone else. Samika and Rita off today. Elita here. Elita, the breeze was kind of nice yesterday after that storm.
I'll tell you what, the drop in temperatures yesterday, that breeze, all of some good stuff. Unfortunately, that is behind us as far as the storms are concerned, but we are still benefiting from that rain-cooled air. Temperature readings are running about 10 degrees cooler this morning, and we've got a wind shift coming in from the north, and that is a drier wind for us. So it's feeling a little bit more comfortable as you step outside this morning. I know many of you have still a couple of hours before you head outside, but running about 10 to 13 degrees cooler. We've got temperatures mostly in the upper 60s to low 70s. The dew point temperatures have come down, indicative of that drier air that I just mentioned. So a comfortable start to the morning, but conditions are favorable for some patches of fog to develop, and that's what we've got going on in Katy as well as Beaumont. Out toward Port Arthur now, the visibility is starting to reduce. The big story for us today, a heat ridge building in across the desert southwest. Record heat out west, and for the desert southwest, for us, we're far from any records, but that drier wind will make it feel less like a sauna, more like an oven this afternoon. Still going to be very toasty. You'll be sweating it out, but with that northerly breeze, it will feel less humid out there, and those dew point temperatures, or I should say the feels like temperatures, will be somewhere into the low 100s instead of 105 and above. We've got temperature readings today in the mid to upper 90s. We'll talk more in detail of how long this heat without the rain sticks around coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Elite.
To have Miss Ed City joining us. All right, weather-wise for today, we've got some cooler conditions, yes, and even a nice drop coming up in my full forecast, guys.
Sounds good, Elite.
Amen to that. Weather-wise for today, thankfully we're getting a little bit of a break in the humidity this morning. The rain-cooled storms from yesterday offering not just some lower temperatures, yesterday's highs, but also this morning, temperatures starting off somewhere in the mid to upper 60s in Conroe, as much as 10 degrees cooler in Houston with a temperature reading of 73. Here's a loop over the last 24 hours. That's the line of showers and thunderstorms that moved through yesterday, leaving us with a mostly dry sky this morning. And even as the atmosphere recharges, we just don't have any storm systems today that are going to be moving into our area as a heat ridge starts to strengthen. That heat ridge allows temperatures to warm today into the mid to upper 90s the next couple of days. Humidity, though, back in the forecast starting tomorrow. I'll have the latest on those heat index values coming up in just a few minutes.
All right.
Loresca starting us off. Hey, Elita.
Hi there, Charlie. Great to have you this morning. Out the door this morning. Humidity stays at bay coming up in just a few minutes.
And now that the storms have moved on, temperatures unfortunately starting to heat up once again. Meteorologist Elita Loresca is helping you to plan out your day. Elita, I know hydration is key this time of year.
Hydration is key, and the best part of the day is going to be during the morning hours, to get any sort of outdoor activities done, and also once the sun goes down. So if you're making those plans and you're thinking, oh, I got to mow my lawn today, I've got to do this, I got to do that, and you need to have a prolonged amount of time outdoors. During the early morning hours is best, and once the sun goes down, or at least as you approach sunset, which this time of year it's at 8:01. So if you can get out there, sneak out around 7:30, 8 o'clock, it is going to be at least more comfortable versus being out there between 12 and 5 p.m. Heat ridge that you're going to hear a lot about, not just across the Lone Star State, but across the desert southwest, across the west coast, because it's going to provide, that will be the catalyst of some record-breaking heat over the next few days. For us, our records are too high. The record, for example, today is at 105. We will come nowhere close to that temperature reading of 105. Today's high at 96, but we are going to see low rain chances. Those low rain chances today below 20%, and then a gradual climb in the rain chances as we get into Sunday, as moisture starts to increase, as that heat ridge slowly starts to weaken, and we may even get a weak front moving across the state. Now, we've got a weak frontal boundary right now that is stalled out close to the coastline. Temperature readings behind that front have cooled, along with a wind shift. That wind shift out of the north, it is calm enough where it's not impacting us so much. Unfortunately, with that calm breeze, that is going to result in some higher levels of ozone pollution. So we'll talk more in detail about that. But first, the wind out of the northeast will be switching out of the southeast this afternoon. So if you are planning to dodge the heat from inland areas and head toward the coastline today, just know that we're not seeing a dangerous risk, I should say, of rip currents. But nonetheless, make sure you keep a close eye on your loved ones as they go and play out in the water. Those wave heights between 1 to 3 feet. A little bit of fog this morning. We've been monitoring some of that fog out toward Katy. Not looking too bad at this hour. I mentioned this frontal boundary. This will stall across the area. The wind behind the front is out of the north, so it is drawing in some slightly cooler, less humid air. Upper 60s to low 70s, but it'll also warm temperatures somewhere in the low to mid 90s by this afternoon. The clouds that we see this morning will eventually clear out, leading to mostly sunny conditions. And as I mentioned, the conditions for today will be favorable for an ozone pollution watch today, Friday, and also on Saturday. By Sunday, we slowly start to see the moisture increase, and so that should improve at least those ozone pollution numbers. Heading into early next week, we'll begin the new week with a weak front that draws in a slight chance for some showers and isolated thunderstorm, and then temperature readings eventually warming in the upper 80s to low 90s.
All right, Elita, thank you.
Everybody, happy Thursday to you. I'm Charlie Edsity.
I'm Jacob Rascone. Rita and Samika off. Hey, how about that temperature drop?
I know. You're like, yeah, I did that. I did that. Yeah, we do have a nice change in the forecast this morning, courtesy of it.
All right, let's talk some weather this morning. So we are finally done with the storms.
Yes.
Brought a little bit of the cooler air, which was nice. Are things looking drier, Elita?
It is looking drier. What you get today is pretty much what you're going to get the next few days as a heat ridge starts to expand from the west. You're going to hear a lot about the record heat that's happening across the west coast and the desert southwest. Meanwhile, around here, yes, it's going to be hot, nothing unusual, but it's also going to stay fairly rain-free. We don't see those rain chances climb again until really after the weekend. Sunday, there's a slim chance for some wet weather, but it looks like most of the moisture that you're finding on our potential rain map is going to hold off falling until we get into early next week as we start to see that moisture pooling back across our area. So this heat ridge, as I mentioned, over the west coast will slowly start to drift back into the Gulf of Mexico as we get into early next week. And a frontal boundary moving into the state sometime on Sunday will get close to southeast Texas and then eventually stall out. There's still a lot of question as to whether or not this is actually going to push through and bring us a little bit of a humidity break, similar to what we're finding this morning. But right now, at least it's going to draw in some cooling showers, some cooling downpours as we get into early next week. And that is going to prompt our next change in the weather pattern. So for now, it's all about that heat ridge. This morning, as I mentioned, some lower humidity. It is drier this morning, and even a nice drop in temperatures as a weak cool front has made its way across southeast Texas. That front has also made it down along the Gulf, down toward Galveston. You're noticing that wind shift out of the north, albeit that breeze is light. At least it's coming in from the north, and that is a drier wind for us. The winds today, not quite as strong as we've seen in recent days, but there still is going to be a slight risk for rip currents. That breeze out of the northeast shifting out of the south and east later on this afternoon. Nice and smooth around the bays and lakes with wave heights between 1 to 3 feet. Now that the winds have settled and we've got some clearing, we've got some patches of fog that have developed. Conditions will be favorable for that fog to return as well overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. So just want to give you a heads up that you may want to get up early tomorrow morning. Of course, join us at 4 a.m. if that's too early for you. I get it. But make sure you tune in early to check out whether or not we see some patches of dense fog, because our computer models are hinting for some of that fog to start us off for that Friday morning commute and then eventually clear out. Otherwise, we've got, like I said, a sunny afternoon in place. There is the frontal boundary, temperatures in the mid to upper 60s to low 70s, but that dry air will also warm us up efficiently. We're headed into highs in the low to mid 90s. Not much in the way of cloud cover, but you're going to see that wind flowing still out of the north. It won't be until Friday when that wind slowly starts to shift and we start to feel the increase in the humidity levels. Today, sunshine, calm wind, warm temperatures, all ingredients that's going to unfortunately provide some higher levels of ozone pollution, and that will be the case for Friday and Saturday as well. As we start to add the humidity, add the clouds, some stronger winds blowing in, that should knock down some of that ozone pollution, and we'll see some improvements on that end. Next week, some seasonal temperatures with highs somewhere in the upper 80s to low 90s and overnight lows in the low 70s, guys.
Oh, and good morning and happy Thursday to you. I'm Charlie Edsity.
And happy first day of summer, really, for a lot of our HIST students are out of school.
Yeah, right.
Now, just about everybody's off, and they're looking forward to some wonderful cool weather?
No. Hey, it's cooler this morning, though. All right, Jacob, we've got a nice treat this morning. We've got a drop in humidity as well as a drop in temperature. So many of us waking up to temperatures somewhere in the mid to upper 60s to low 70s. Yeah, instead of the 80s, and feels like temperatures of the 90s. I'll take it. So if you're wondering, okay, what part of the day should I feel at least comfortable and not sweating it out? It's the morning hours, but because as we get into the afternoon, even though it is a dry heat, temperatures expected to warm into the mid 90s, mid to upper 90s in some areas. We do have some changes on the way, though. I'll have the latest details on those changes coming up in just a few minutes. But first, the energy usage report sponsored by Champion Energy.
Well, how are we doing on the tropics? Nice and cool, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, yes, I like it. Yes, it's not heating up, that's for sure. Unlike our weather around here. We'll talk more about our heating up forecast here locally. But first, let's check out the tropics. We've been talking about the widespread amount of Saharan dust continuing to move off the coast of Africa, and that's going to limit any sort of development. Also, some very strong upper level winds. We may be dealing with some changes, though, in the coming weeks, especially particular area around the Pacific, right along the Central American coastline there near Baja California, and also a region that's favorable for development this time of year, mainly in the month of June around the northwestern Caribbean, also the Bay of Campeche. This Climate Prediction Center is suggesting that we have about a 20% chance for development here from June 12th to June 18th. But even looking ahead beyond that to the middle of the month, we're talking June 19th to June 25th. There's still some potential development here as the upper level winds start to weaken. It's not quite as strong, so that typically favors tropical development, or at least thunderstorms to form, and also record warmth in the tropics right now, in the Caribbean as well as in the Pacific. And as I mentioned, in June, if anything does develop, this is the region that it typically develops, in the northwestern Caribbean as well as the Bay of Campeche. And if something were to develop, you can see the couple of tracks that it could take around Mexico, around the Gulf Coast, and over toward Florida. So if anything's looking suspicious, of course, we'll let you know, but a huge dome of high pressure is going to lock us into mostly dry conditions, keeping the storm track away from us. Eventually, that dome of high pressure weakens, and it slowly starts to bump up our chances for rain as early as Sunday, coming in at 20%. And then by Monday, a frontal boundary will be pushing towards southeast Texas. And right now, a lot of the models are differing between whether or not this front stalls out or whether or not it pushes through. For now, we have it stalling out, and it will be the focus point of some additional rain showers beyond the Monday timeframe. For now, we are nice and dry, and we are benefiting from a weak cold front that has made its way through southeast Texas, even our friends down along the coastline where it's not feeling quite as sticky. The breeze this morning has calmed, and we anticipate some calm winds later on today. Bays and lakes nice and smooth with those waters or the waves between 1 to 3 feet. A little bit of fog this morning, but the latest computer models are suggesting that some of that fog could return overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, and it could be a little bit more widespread, or at least impacting a few more spots than it is this morning. So you may want to tune in early tomorrow morning to see if there is any fog in your neighborhood. Otherwise, here's that frontal boundary. Temperature readings starting off cooler, some less humid air. It should still be comfortable this afternoon with some lower humidity, but it is a dry heat, and you're going to see lots of sunshine. That northerly wind flow will keep pumping in some drier air. Unfortunately, those ingredients, when you have the calm wind, the sunshine, and the warmth, also increases the ozone levels. So we've got an ozone pollution watch through Saturday. The humidity does return later on this week into the weekend, and by next week, still keeping about a 20 to 30% chance for some wet weather.